All right, all right, all right. Welcome back to another edition of Leaders and Learners, where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. And before we get into it, okay, I want you to hit that subscribe button right now, not at the end, because what we're about to talk about impacts every single dollar California spends on your behalf. So I want you to subscribe, drop a comment when you feel like it, and we'll read it on screen. Share this with someone who pays taxes in California. Okay. Now, let's go. California, I want you to pay attention. This is a very serious conversation, especially if you have not voted yet. But even if you have, I'll have some information for you today. California has a $325 billion budget. Did you know that? $325 billion. And that is important for you to understand. The state has never, not once, conducted a full audit of where that money goes. I'm Tonya McKenzie, the host of Leaders and Learners, founders of Sand and Shores, LA County Commissioner, and your chief controller of the narrative. With me today are my co-hosts for the day. You know, when it's about politics, I want to make sure I have someone that is very astute in these conversations. So we have Mr. Jeffrey Sneed and our amazing author and publisher, Mr. Myron Clifton. And we have our guest, the man of the hour, who spent 38 years managing money at the highest level. He built a firm that grew to $1.5 billion in assets and is now running for California State Controller. California, okay? Did you hear what I said? I want you to show this man a little happy reception from the Leaders and Learners crowd. Mr. Herb Morgan is in the building today. Hey, how
Well,
are you?
hello, everybody. It's great to be with you this day before Election Day.
I hope you say that by the time we're done. You know, I want to make sure we keep that same energy.
I think
But listen,
this energy's been going for a year. Why would it stop now? Let's go.
okay. Received. I know you have a lot going on and you're still on the campaign trail, but I want to get started, jump into this while we do have you and while we have good reception. I want you to start at the beginning because most Californians have never thought about state controller's office. They don't even know what goes on there. They don't know where it's at, what they do. They know the governor, they know the senator, but the controller, not so much. Walk us through this. What does the controller actually control?
But yeah, so it's interesting because we have three financial offices. Two are elected and one is not, right? So what we're not is the state auditor. We're not the elected state treasurer. The state controller has a unique role, which was created by the 1879 Constitution. They are part of financial controls. Two primary objectives of financial controls. Number one, put out the annual audited financial report, income statement, balance sheet of the state of California. That is critically important because that report enables us to get the federal funds that come in, and we get a lot of federal funds in California to fund our programs of compassion. Number two, the state controller is responsible for the prevention of fraud, waste, and abuse. And they are endowed with two roles in that regard. Role number one, pre-audit all state expenditures. So if an agency or a department says, okay, we're going to send $1 billion here or $20 million there, the state controller is the one who's responsible for making sure it's legally authorized, in proper format, and the money goes where it's supposed to go and nobody takes it along the way. So it's critical. And then the second part of that job is the state controller is supposed to, after the money's been sent, they're supposed to go back and audit and view and determine, did it get spent as it was intended? Was it used as intended? In the end, was it stolen or not? Or any percentage or amount of it, siphoned off along the way? And California's budget, as you stated, is $320 billion for the fiscal year that ends June 30th. It'll likely be 360 to 370 next year. That places us in the absolutely massive category. So the opportunity for theft, for waste, for fraud, for abuse, for favored contracts to the is the controller to make sure that doesn't happen.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. And any questions, make sure you put them in the chat and we'll get those answered if we have time.
Okay, that's a good synopsis, Herb. Reading through and from a background standpoint, I read that the office of the controller is primarily ministerial. You don't have that job, that role doesn't have the option to not pay bills that are warranted properly from the legislative and executive branches and stuff. So beyond oversight, what is it that you would hope to accomplish as treasurer? I mean, excuse me, as controller.
Yes, controller. So you're right, and that's such an important thing for people to know. Well, people say, "Well, what's your position on X or Y or Z?" And I say, "Well, why is it relevant? What you should be concerned is what are my qualifications as a financial expert or a financial officer or operator." And that is what matters in this job, not my opinion of how money should be spent or where it should be spent. It's very irrelevant. And so to enhance the value to the taxpayers of me doing that job, the thing I want to accomplish is I want to take all state spending. When I say all, it's not just the state, but all of its subsidiaries, the 58 counties, the 482 cities, the police departments, the school districts, the water boards, all of their spending. And I want to put every transaction online in an open source, searchable, free database so that citizens can be comfortable and feel confident that their money is being spent appropriately, or they could, if they don't like the way it's being spent, they could talk to their legislators. But my job is to really just give them that information. And California attempted to do this. They started a project about 20 years ago, and it was called Open Phys Cal. They built a website, and they attempted to put all the state spending online. Unfortunately, due to politics and turf wars, the controller fought with the treasurer fought with the auditor. We spent $1 billion on this, and it's up, but it doesn't work very well. I'm a financial expert. It was very difficult for me to get information. So as I've gone around and interviewed like this and talked to newspapers, they say, "Herb, what you propose is just massive. It's not a great idea. I don't think you can get it done. We're not sure if we want to endorse you or support you." And so I took that as a real challenge, and so I already built it. And so the state spent $1 billion on Open Fiscal. It does not work. We, with a campaign volunteer, we spent about $1,500, and we built a new online portal, and it's called CaliforniaRadicalTransparency.com. We then used AI, and we scraped all of the most recent years' annual reports, budgets, audits, and LAO, Legislative Analyst Office reports. We took all of the data out and all of the data out of the failed system, Open Fiscal. We reformatted it, put it in an open source searchable database, and it cost $1,500 to build. Contrast that with the $1 billion that the state spent, and it doesn't work. I think I hope we've proven to people like, hey, we're really serious about this. This is not a vanity project for me. You can see I got a car full of signs. I think this is hard work. Right? And so CaliforniaRadicalTransparency.com. It's live today. It works today. I used publicly available information, and we built this in about 60 hours for $1,500.
Thank you for that, Herb. It's a good website. I checked it out yesterday
think
and this morning,
I
and
am not
some of
hearing
my
you, Myron. Are you muted?
no, am I not coming in? You can hear me, Herb.
Yeah,
What about you?
I hear you fine.
Okay,
Okay.
I hear Jeffrey.
Okay.
Maybe Jeffrey should go since Herb can't hear me. Tonya, I'll log back
Nothing
in.
from Myron. Only Jeffrey or
Can you hear me?
Tanya. Yes, Tanya, you're fine.
Okay, perfect. You're the first politician, first political candidate in American history to publish all campaign finances on chain. Um, you have a prototype. You have a prototype, and for people who hear blockchain though and
Yes.
think cryptocurrency speculations, explain what you are actually proposing and why it's actually more trustworthy, in your opinion, than what the state uses right now.
Yeah. So the real question is, okay, if we're going to make this information available to people, as I think we should, I think everybody agrees across all political ideologies and spectrums that people have the right to know, where do you store it? When people look on the internet, they don't necessarily know where it's stored. And right now, the safest place to store anything is on something called a blockchain ledger. And I'll just take you through the history. You know, we used to write on cave walls, and then we wrote on like animal skins and sheep skin, and then we moved up to tablets and wood paper and all this, and then we had client server, and then now we have this new form of data storage, and it's called a blockchain ledger. And as of today, as of June 1st, 2026, it is the least hackable. There's actually never been a hack of a blockchain ledger. So by putting the data there, and this has nothing to do with cryptocurrency, although cryptocurrency also uses blockchain ledger technology, but they're totally unrelated. By putting it there, we take the likelihood of failure, the likelihood of a hack to the lowest possible level. We could just store it in a traditional database like you see, you know, like a SQL database, like people who are tech inclined know what that is. We can, but that has a higher risk today of hacking and changing. And so if we want the citizens to feel that the government is being honest with them, that means once it's written, it can never be changed. And so the prototype that we put on the website, that was the same thing. We said, you know, political candidates get donations from people. And then like I stayed in the Homewood Suites last night. I felt like that was the most expensive I could do because this is other people's money and they're supporting me in this mission. But political candidates don't always treat other people's money the way it should be treated. And so I decided that I would publish every transaction of my campaign online on a blockchain ledger for everyone to see. Blockchain means I can never go back and change it. Once it's published, there's no possibility of altering it in any way. So when I swipe my credit card for breakfast for my campaign team in the morning, that is seen by everybody who has an interest. When Jeff Sneed goes on and donates maximum to my campaign because he loves my message, that is seen by everybody in the public. Now, there are rules, you know, FPPC rules where people have to disclose at a certain point in time, but I believe in just doing it sooner because my entire campaign mission is transparency. I believe I should eat my own cooking. And so, first campaign in the history of US politics, or I guess world politics, to ever publish every transaction every day. And that to build that system was like $500. It was really easy to do.
I saw what you put online. I looked at it last night.
And now we don't hear Myron.
It said, "Don't hear me."
Oh man,
I've gone back and
I
forth.
can hear Myron. What is
I
going
can
on?
hear him fine.
Yeah, and now I hear Jeffrey fine.
Oh
Well,
no, I think you got.
I'll just pipe down.
Myron.
I'll
no,
listen
we
in,
don't.
Tanya.
We need your participation.
No, I need you to. Maybe it's the headphones. No,
I can take him out.
no,
I
not
can
you.
hear. I
Him.
can hear
Oh,
everybody.
him.
I can hear you too.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Jeffrey
it's funny.
just
Oh no,
can't
I
I
think Herb
hear-
might have
can't hear
blocked
me.
you. I think Herb might have blocked you or something. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah. Sorry about that. But yeah, I hear Jeffrey now and I hear Tonya. So I'm sorry.
Jeffrey, I wonder if you can ask him then, or Tanya, about his online tool and what he said about transparency and everything. About what amount of AI will he be using? Because I saw that on his website and part of the initiative that he's rolling out to find the
I'm hoping
information
somebody can repeat that question for me.
is AI.
Yeah, we're working on that now.
Okay.
So Herb, the question is, Myron's asking how much of that site is managed and run by AI, and or how much do you see AI driving that process? I'm
Yeah,
paraphrasing.
so it's not managed at all by AI right now, but my vision for the state controller's office is to embrace AI technology in a very big way to give the people better access and visibility to what the spending is. And it'll also that forces the people that that make the spending to be very thoughtful in what they do, right? Be really thoughtful if you know that the public can see what you do within 24 hours or less. We used, of course, AI to build the sites. One of the reasons we were able to do it so quickly. We're working on a special AI chat bot that'd be me. So it's a lot of data on the site. There's millions and millions of transactions. But people will be able to, in the near future, go to the California radicaltransparency.com, and then they can talk to me in plain language. But my vision for the state controller's office is think of Nassau Control Center meets Wall Street trading desk. So massive amounts of data being fed in from all state agencies, entities, subsidiaries for the spending on a daily basis. And then all of that data being compartmentalized, analyzed, stacked, sorted by AI, which reduces the cost of operating the state government bureaucracy, which is important. And then AI knows what I'm looking for because we train it. Like I'm one human being and I'll have 1,500 employees in the state controller's office. But the reason, we can get into the reason for the fraud right here. If you ask the current state controller's office, they said we don't have enough auditors. Well, okay, do you get more auditors or do you make the auditors you have more efficient? And what we have budget issues, right? We can't just keep adding people and adding people. So my view is we use AI to tee up information for the human auditors and say, hey, here's 10 things we found overnight that need your investigation. 9 of them may be perfectly fine and legitimate. Move those to the side. Now there's one. The city of XYZ did this yesterday. They spent $800,000 on a new police car. Well, that's not what a police car costs. So let's dig into it. What happened? And let's fix it now before we have to wait until the audit, the traditional audit, which is 2 years down the road, and we find something and we're trying to fix things 24, 26 months too late. So it's like a real-time audit using AI as my support staff. They're kind of teeing it up for me, or I always use the Pippin to Jordan analogy. So they're Pippin and they tee it, I drop it up, and I'm Jordan, I put it down. I'm not very tall, but if I was, I'd be like Jordan to knock it down.
Mike,
You have a question on the screen. Why does AI have to do it? AI builds the site with actual people. Will actual people work the system or work on the system? So does this eliminate jobs?
Well, what it does is it enables something that we could never do without AI. So in the end, it's probably a net add to job because there's people behind the AI programming, there's people behind the management of the output of the programming. And I know, like every time in human history, I'm an economist by trade. Every time we've had a new technology, there was this fear that it was going to eliminate jobs. Right? We thought that with automobiles, right? The blacksmith was going to go out of business. That all the way to railroads, uh, uh, jet airplanes, to put the postal service. They thought it was supposed to put it out of business. The internet was going to change everything. Yet, if you just looked in the United States, the number of people employed were at about 160 million people employed. That's multiples higher than it was during all these technologies coming out. So, I don't share the fear that a lot of people have that AI will eliminate jobs. I think it's an entirely new industry. It will render some jobs obsolete. That new technology has done that through human history, but it has also marked the sort of upward progress of human existence, quality of life. AI is going to help us, for example, develop drugs and vaccines at a pace that's unlike anything we've ever seen. That's going to save lives, millions and millions of lives, as an example. So there is risk, right? There's all kinds of risk to AI. We're certainly aware of them, but I want to harness it for something good for the people of the state of California.
One more from the audience. How about auditing your staff and holding them accountable to do their jobs also? Is that something you'd look at doing?
Yeah, of course. I think anytime you're a chief executive, that's my role in life, having been in business, is you run teams and organizations and groups. And so you always audit yourself. And those are performance audits of the team. One of the big things I plan to do when I get into the controller's office is I'm going to end, except in extreme circumstances, work from home. I just don't believe in the concept of work from home. I think teams matter. I think people being together matter. Water cooler discussions matter. In-person meetings matter. So we're going to do that. And yes, I have a long history of holding employees accountable to measurables. I will do that at the state level as well.
And we got another one. What will you do differently than the incumbent?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I think there's some big differences between us that I'll bring a different set of experiences. First, my background is entirely financial, and I have no political background other than that I've always voted, and I'm interested in politics like all Americans are. I think that when she got into this office 4 years ago, I think she would even say this. I'm not denigrating her. I mean, she just didn't have a financial background. That wasn't her life experience. She had other great experiences in life, and I think that hurt her. For example, the annual single file audit that's due for federal government, which helps us get our federal funds in. The first year in office, she was 22 months past the deadline in getting that done. The next year, it was like 18 months, and it got a little shorter, but she's been late every single year. And I think that's something we'll do very, very differently. The other thing is when she got in 2022, she said, I'm going to audit the homeless spending programs. And I have a lot of passion around our programs of compassion. We have a lot of programs. We have a lot of wealth in California, richest state in the richest country in humanity. We want to fully fund our programs of compassion, but because I'm a math guy, and we also have to have measurable metrics. And she promised when she got in, hey, I'm going to go audit this. We know we're spending enough on homeless. We know we're not getting the results we want.
You're breaking up really badly.
Okay, you go to the legislature and you say, this is what you spent, this is what you got. And I don't think she's done that, so we'd be very different in that regard.
I have a follow-up to the transparency database. I've worked for the Nielsen Company for a few years and worked as a trade and sales analyst in the grocery business. So I understand big data. Obviously not as big as 320 to 70 billion, but I understand big data. And what I've learned, no matter the level of expertise, most people don't know how to synthesize that. I understand AI is part of doing that here, but I think that, help me understand how all of that information going down to Mrs. Watkins on 74th Street is helpful to the management of funds for the state of California.
Yeah, and so it's such a great question. Why? So what's the value of this? Why having all this data matters, right? So I was down in San Ysidro, and there was a group of moms in San Ysidro, which is a city along the border, and these moms are convinced. They're just convinced that their school district is spending the money improperly. So they've gone to the school district and they're saying, hey, show us how you've spent the money. We believe it should be different. And they're the moms and the dads, and they should have this input. They have a right to know this information. And so they're saying, hey, we got this much funding from the state, but we're not seeing it in the classroom, in their opinion. The administration's saying, no, we spent it fine. It's all appropriate. You just trust us. Well, wouldn't it be great if we could just end the debate by giving everybody access to what they wanted? There's other people that come up to me every day. They're very interested in the spending on high-speed rail. Other people are interested in employment development department. This would be valuable to university researchers, think tanks, I call them armchair economists. It really gives people the information. And my hope is that it settles debates rather than creates debates. We just sit there and go, oh, okay, well, I didn't realize we had to buy a new air conditioner at the school last year. That was a really big one-time expense. That's why there's no money for the sport court. Oh, okay. Right. But so what these moms think is they think there's a lot of inappropriate spending happening. And by sharing the data with everybody and then using AI to help them analyze and synthesize the data, maybe we settle some debates and we can move on and settle, another problem.
Another comment, holding management level staff accountable. From past experience in government work, management, especially upper management, feels like they do not have to do work. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that could be true in any organization, public or private. And those people that have known me in business over the years, pretty high volume executive and a high energy executive and a high measurable and accountability executive. So they're telling me, oh, Herb, you're going to be very, and I just don't buy that somebody, just because their job is in government, they actually have a different mindset or mentality or work ethic than somebody in the private sector. I think a lot of the government employees have a passion for service. And I'm sure there are some great ones, and I'm sure there are some not so great ones. What I traditionally do when I get into a new organization is I get everybody in the room and I lay out my vision. That's the role of the leader. You have to lay out your vision. And you try to sell that vision to everybody and inspire them to achieve and do great things. You give them every possible opportunity to get on the program, get with the program, get on the Herbie train. We're going to do this. It's going to be great. And feel some personal success attached to it. People tend to perform better if they believe in their leader and their mission. That's true in war, and it's true in accounting, and it's true in anything from a school club, you name it. But after you've given everybody every possible opportunity, if there are individuals who say, no, I don't want to do this, I want to stay working from home, I don't want to have this much level of activity and output that's measured every day, then we say, okay, we're going to help you transition out and find something that you can get passionate about. Because I don't think we're serving, if people don't like, this is my attitude in business, if somebody on my team doesn't like their job or mission, where we're going, well, I have an obligation to help them find their way to something they do. And that would be the same attitude I would take with state government.
I got another one for you. It might be a little controversial, but who won the 2020 election?
Well, I am not responsible for counting ballots, particularly in the state of Georgia. I have never been there. I only know what I've read in the newspapers, and I know there are very deep passions on this. But unless I have access to the myself, I also do know what was certified. So I think we got to go with what was certified.
And what was that?
I'm pretty sure Joe Biden was the president for 4 years.
These are the times we live in.
I mean, I can go back and check, but I'm pretty sure Joe Biden was the president for 4 years.
I mean, that's what I thought. I wasn't sure.
So, Herb, along
Yes, sir.
along the same lines, do you think that the state controller should be a nonpartisan role?
Oh, yes, I do. But that is determined by our Constitution. And the legislature can't change that, right? That has to be by a vote of the people. Of the 8 executive positions, only one is nonpartisan. That is superintendent of public instruction. And it should be. It makes sense. I believe treasurer should be nonpartisan. I believe controller absolutely should be nonpartisan. You could certainly make the case for but yes, I think it should be. But it requires the Constitution. I don't see that happening anytime soon.
No, I don't either. Can you repeat the last one?
I think you could make
and superintendent.
You could make the case. Superintendent already is. You could make the case for treasurer, and you could make the case for Secretary of State. Actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, if a governor ignores your findings, if an agency stonewalls your audits, if legislators bury your reports, what real power do you actually have? And if the answer is limited, then why should voters believe that this race is so consequential?
So I use the word plenary a lot, meaning a lot, total, complete. So the state controller has plenary authority, not only to audit anything that touches our money, and they can't refuse me the audit. If they tried to refuse me, I would just get a judge with a court order, and it would take hours to do. But the other area where I have plenary authority is I get to mandate and dictate the method of financial reporting. That is mine to decide. And so right now we have like 150-year-old accounting technology where people either like send in or mail in, here's our income statement, here's our balance sheet, and these are consolidated financial reports. What I want to do is I want to move to transaction level reporting on a daily basis. And the first thing people say was, how in the heck could you possibly do that? Well, every time you go to get coffee in Starbucks or wherever, and you swipe your credit card, about 30 seconds later, your phone gets an electronic transaction report. It says you spent $4 on a latte, or $8 here in Los Angeles on a latte. And that's a transaction report. It's date, it's time, it's amount, it's location. That technology is basically ubiquitous. It's everywhere, it's free. So what I plan to do is build that technology and say to every recipient of our money, look, I'm going to wire you $200 million tomorrow. Here's what's required. Log in one time, connect your bank account and your credit card accounts of this agency, the Caltrans agency or the High Speed Rail, whatever it is, so that every day when you have financial transactions, there's no more work for you to do. You don't need new staff. That transaction will be written to my database and my ledger. And if they say no, they say, okay, well, I'm not going to release that $200 million wire because I dictate the method of financial reporting. I don't want you to email me a PDF. I don't want an attestation of what you did, say you did with the money. That's old tech. It's old and it's obsolete. What I want is a direct financial printing every day at no cost of your data into this database on a blockchain ledger, analyzed by AI, allowing me to synthesize millions times more data than any human could do alone, even 5 years ago. That is the constitutional authority of the state controller to do that.
We got another one real quick. How much in savings do you anticipate in your first term if elected?
Well, it's interesting. So the state controller doesn't really have the authority to say we want to save or spend less or spend more. If I think, like, just my personal opinion is, if you look at the totality of our state budget and you look at the ineffectiveness of our accounting systems, the ineffectiveness of our auditing systems, it's just very old tech. For example, our payroll system is from the 70s that we do for the state. So there's this leakage and there's errors. I believe the total error rate, and that includes fraud, but that doesn't mean everything is fraud, but the total error rate in our state budget, based on my work, is in the neighborhood of 25%. So if this was an LBO, we were trying to do a buyout of a business together and we were looking at it, we'd be in the top secret meeting going, oh yeah, these guys are messed up with their accounting. There's 25% savings to be found, and that would really help us value the deal. But here, I don't get to say how we spend money. That is the governor and the legislature. And Governor Newsom has until June 15th to get the legislature to approve his new budget request or change it or whatever. So I can't save the money, but I could certainly give advice to the legislature and the governor, and I could point them to savings. And I think it would be 20 to 25% of the total spend right now.
Jeff, any other questions?
So with that being said, let's talk about the buzz phrase waste, fraud, and abuse, which I generally hate. Not because I'm a fan of waste, fraud, or abuse. It's just, it's a loaded and charged term that doesn't tell anybody anything.
Yeah, it's politics. I get it.
And that's why I have a problem with that. So in the role of controller, you get a check from XYZ. I mean, you get a warrant from XYZ construction company to build whatever, and then use your number, $200 million project.
Mm-hmm.
And your office is charged with sending them that money. How do you identify waste and or abuse in that process?
Well, in that case where you have a contractor, right, and the contractor has bid the project and the agency responsible for doing it, what I do is I'm not looking necessarily waste, fraud, and abuse. I need to check to make sure all the rules were followed. Was it bid according to the law? Was it open bidding process? Was it a fair bidding process? Was the recipient of the contract in any way related to the person or group that awarded the contract?
Self-dealing.
That's one of the big complaints, the self-dealing complaints, particularly around some of the end. We can get it all into the NGOs if you're interested. That's a big concern in the NGO spending, that sort of favorite the self-dealing is happening. Where the waste part or fraud or abuse, the fraud part can be at the contractor level. So for example, an example would be I could go and do an audit of the project and they were spending on concrete. And I don't know what the cost is right now of a bag of concrete, but maybe they padded it and they spent 2 or 3 times what the market price is of a bag of concrete. Those are the kind of things a controller's office should find out. I'm looking at bags of concrete over here right now. That's why I came up with that idea. And they would come and figure out, okay, there's potential. It doesn't mean it's fraud, right? But that's when you investigate. Well, no, this actually project required a special kind of concrete that was only available and it cost more, something like that. So I do agree with you. The waste, fraud, and abuse thing is thrown out there and it's just kind of become cliche. But I have learned as I've begun to investigate just what's publicly available to me as a citizen now, it's pretty shocking how often folks just ignore the rules in our state government, in our state subsidiaries. It's very significant.
Another comment, should be auditing the invoices and POs submitted for the project. I would agree with that.
Yeah, 100%. You know, there's different kinds of audits, right? You could just do a payroll audit. I want to audit Santa Monica School District's payroll, make sure they did everything. That's fine. That's easy. Staff's going to go out and do a payroll audit. There's a full financial audit, which you can do, which the controller's office says, hey, we're not doing, we don't have enough resources. I disagree with her assessment there. And then there's what's called a performance audit. And then you can go deep into things like individual invoices and POs. And that's where the volume of data, and one of the reasons people know that right now is they know that the volume is so big and the resources of the state government are limited that it just encourages, it fosters this environment where it can happen. My view is we can scale up our oversight using AI to identify where we need to go and direct people like me and my team.
Wonderful. Getting on the Herbie train.
Yeah, I love that.
It can work in the private sector, but the public sector, there are different rules, laws, and unions. What challenges do you anticipate moving from private, which you've been good at, to public? You would not be a CEO, but a public servant. So walk us through that.
Yeah, very, very good question. I have to learn the rules, and you know, every time I've come into a new organization, the first thing you do is you go and learn who the people are, the players are, and what the rules of the game are, the rules of engagement. Part of that is going to be having a very good legal team behind me, right? Whether it's the state attorney general, him or herself, advising me on what I can and can't do, or our own internal legal team advising me on how to do things properly within the concept. But if I'm sitting literally, my job is to hold other people accountable for following the rules. I better darn well follow the rules myself.
I appreciate that. Jeff?
Herb, where do you live now?
I live in San Diego.
Okay.
America's finest city. As we used to call it that.
Well, yeah, that's the tag. That's the tag. San Diego's
Yes,
a
sir.
great place.
I'll be there later this month.
How
Love it.
I don't want to say this. Looking at, you know, my background has always kind of been pressure testing in with a small group before expanding it out larger.
Mhm.
When you look at how San Diego's run, how would you categorize San Diego? As
Well, you mean from
county, city?
a fiscal perspective?
Sure.
I think San Diego has some pretty significant financial challenges right now. much of that is driven by poor long-term planning around reserves and very, very large increases in pensionable public sector pay. So as you probably know, I was brought into the San Diego pension system along with a group of people after the Enron by the Sea situation, where 4 of our trustees were criminally indicted. The mayor at the time, Jerry Sanders, appointed me and others and said, hey, we need to restore the public trust. We had gone 8 years without an audited financial statement, which is not even legal, but we did it. They did it. And how do you turn that around? Well, one of the things is when somebody works for you, you have a contract and they're in your pension system, you actually have to honor that contract. So we came in with like, it doesn't matter if we want a big pension or don't want a big pension, it's the pension we have. And so my job as a trustee was to ensure that the money went into that system, which is why I got along so well with the labor leaders in San Diego, even though I'm kind of on the other side of the spectrum sometimes. They were like, no, as long as you're doing the right thing, Herb, we support you. And that's where San Diego kind of is now. They're dealing with having to make very, very large pension payments, far in excess of what you would expect, both at the city level and the county level. So Mayor Gloria at the city level and the supervisors at the county level are being forced, right? You can't not make your pension payment. Now, they try sometimes, and that's when you get into trouble and you become Enron by the Sea again. So they've learned that lesson. They are prioritizing getting that done. A pension is an amortized thing, so it's going to be decades before it gets better. And so what they've done is they've tried to figure out other ways to make the math work. But maybe they say, okay, they prioritize, well, public safety is clearly super important, so we have to have police and fire. Well, maybe that means we have less park maintenance or less arts. Nobody likes it on any side of the aisle, but we're not in particularly great financial situation in the county or the city. I don't think we're at the chapter 9, which is municipal bankruptcy. I don't think we're at that level because our balance sheet is good. So we have an income statement problem, not a balance sheet problem. The balance sheets of both the county and city of San Diego are just massive with real estate, office buildings, Torrey Pines Golf Course, right? And so nobody wants to be the one that says it's time to sell an asset that is a prime, pristine, lovable asset of the city. But I do think we need to be a little more aggressive at finding long-term solutions that don't relate to the 4 or 2-year cycle of an elected official.
Sounds like raising taxes.
That's kind of what it sounds like, yeah.
I think his voice was gone again.
Okay.
Silent Myron, we call him.
That's all right.
It's it's just interesting. What do you think of San Jose? I'm just curious. Have you looked at the fiscal health of San Jose, California, where I'm from?
Yeah, well, San Jose is obviously an incredibly wealthy community because of Silicon Valley, and obviously the property tax revenue, the sales tax revenue that happens there. I do think there's a controversy about how well they have or haven't done around the unhoused or the homeless situation there, and I think I'm not an expert on San Jose like I am in San Diego.
I guess, I'd love to know, since we've spoken about the homeless population, and I've heard some crazy things come up. As a commissioner, we work on alcohol and other drug issues that are highly impacted with the homeless population. Do you feel like it's something that the homeless population is something that we should be investing in? Because now I'm just wondering where you are with that, because
Yeah, I absolutely
some of the
do think you.
conversation
So
is crazy
I always
around
bring this back to we are so wealthy. Like this is like the richest country in the history of the world. We're the richest state within the richest country. We have the highest level of tax revenue, highest absolute percentage level of taxation of any state. So we Californians expect good roads, good schools, care for the weakest and meekest among us, and that includes the drug addicted homeless, the alcohol addicted homeless, the mentally deficient, which has impacted my family, homeless people. It includes the homeless veterans. It includes the single mother living out of her car and taking kids to school and working a double shift. All of that have the money to fund. We do fund it. The problem is the delivery mechanism. We're not getting results. So, remember the 24 billion on homeless, right, in California. So the way we deliver police services is we have a police department staffed by employees. We give them their money, they hire, they do it, they manage it, they report. When we got these, what I call newer problems, we've always had homeless, but the explosion in homeless is in the last 20 years. We said we have to deal with it. And so we funded it, but we didn't build a good delivery mechanism, meaning we said, well, let's give it to nonprofit, and it would just give them nonprofits money. They say, we will deal with it. Okay, well, when you give somebody money as a government entity, you must control. You must have financial controls in place. There must be strings attached. So I went out and I interviewed several nonprofit CEOs that I happen to know are very good. For example, San Diego County is absolutely massive. We only have one rape crisis center. How that's possible, I don't know. Very underfunded. They get grants, and the woman running it is not getting rich by any means. This is a labor of love. She's doing the right thing. And I said, how difficult is it for you to maintain compliance with the county and the state for the money you get? And she said, oh, no, that's not the hardest thing we do. It's very easy. I said, what do you mean? She says, I get an attestation, like an email saying I attest that I used the money properly. Have you ever been audited? No, I've never been audited. And I asked other nonprofits, again, they're not necessarily all bad. When you have a situation where you don't have proper financial controls, you don't have proper audits, then if they're bad players, bad actors, they will see that and they will expect that. Bad always finds their way in. And so what's happened now is you have good nonprofit now, like their own donors are like, we can't get people to donate because always is bad news about nonprofits. And the reality is it's always a small number of bad apples that spoil it. And so it's the delivery mechanism that's broken. So we either need to internalize it in departments, number one, or number two, to put proper financial controls on the nonprofit recipients, which I could do with my radical transparency plan. That would be relatively easy to implement. And there's other things that are policy that are really for the legislature, the governor to talk about, like force people into treatment, kind of thing, is not for the controller to say or do or decide. I know that's the government candidates talk about all of that. Can you require treatment as a condition of services? All of those things are also important. But from a financial perspective, we have to either fund departments or put financial controls on the nonprofits that take grants. And that's what, I don't know, 80, 90 arrests now.
You can you go out and come back in real quick?
Sure, I'll do it.
Great there.
Because we want to hear what you're saying. I don't know. What did you think about that?
I used to run an audit department when I worked in corporate America for a few years, about 5 years. And he sounds like all my auditing and financial.
Yeah.
It's very familiar to me, and he's saying all the right things.
Right. Well, I mean,
yeah.
And your thoughts on that?
Audits, controls, accountability. You got to inspect what you expect at every stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We are back. Is that better?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Now
let's keep going.
Here we go. Before we let you go, we want you to give us your final pitch, because the people need to hear what you have to say. What should voters be thinking right now? Why should they choose you?
Well, I think that
you disappeared on me. Now I can't even see you.
We hear you, but we don't see you.
Herb, we're gonna have to do this another time when you're not in your car. You're killing me. But I want to hear you though. Can we hear you?
Maybe you dropped again to re-come back in.
So we used to not let people do interviews in their car. It's kind of crazy. And now you know why.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll come back. Hold on. He's trying this again. Let's see. Let's see what we got.
Okay.
Do we got you?
Yeah, we switched to another source, which says we have a very, very strong signal. But you had asked me for final pitch,
It's not good. It's not
I
good.
think, right?
It's not
His
good.
picture,
Yeah.
the video quality is better, but
It's
the
a bad
sound is
signal.
just as bad. Oh my goodness.
You're not winning.
Yeah.
Yes, she
That's
said
what
absolutely no car interviews. Herb, don't do no more
No.
car interviews, okay?
You got
Oh,
it.
now,
You got it.
Go to a
Everything
loud
here,
coffee
but the final
shop.
pitch is just thanks for listening. I got a lot of
We can't
great
hear you.
ideas. I hope they resonate.
We can't hear
I hope
you.
people visit the website
oh,
herbmorgan.com and check out these academic white papers.
All right.
all right. No.
Well, check this out, fellas, since we're here and we have the last say. I don't know. I didn't vote yet, and I don't know how much. I don't know. I want give me your final thoughts.
It's buggy.
Hmm? He left you. What's going
Oh,
on? Give me
where's
your
my-
final thoughts, Jeff.
Um, the position, the office of the controller is very limited in what it can do and accomplish. And, and I'll give you an example. I was reading in some of the Malia Cohen information that she was a member of 70 boards.
Mm,
And it's like,
I saw that.
It's like, wow, how'd you do that? Well, it's constitutionally required that you're a member of those 70 boards. So it
Wow.
wasn't some Herculean feat that she went out there and like, okay, I'm engaged. I'm not saying it that way to penalize her. It's very different when you realize it's not of your own accord. It's part of the office. As I was reading about Proposition 1A relative to the high-speed rail spending, and Hilton and Blanco and Morgan and a bunch of other Republicans are talking about what they would do to not spend money, not fund the rail unless it complied with the Prop 1A levers that were built into the legislation. Prop 1A was approved in 2008.
Yeah.
It's almost 20 years old. So tell me how you're going to audit and it's like, okay, that sounds like a lot of hyperbole about something that if it could have been controlled, I think somebody would have controlled it in the last 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always fascinating when, and now Herb did not do or say anything that we could hear that, that had bluster in it, like he was really running things if he gets this job, because the controller really doesn't. And that's the interesting part about this. That's mainly why I asked the question about it being a partisan office,
Mm-hmm.
because you wind up getting into politics, and that office is really apolitical in any way that really matters, other than trying to get elected.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's very agnostic, right?
Yeah.
It's math. 1 + 1 = 2, and he has to report out on that. And as I tried to get across earlier, his website is really good. Now it's just a tiny little snapshot, right? It's just, and yeah, you could build that for $1,500, but if you have to integrate that into California's accounting systems and the end to end, it's going to cost a whole lot more than that, and it would take a lot longer than a weekend to build. However, it is a basic accounting tool, and as I mentioned before, I used to manage an accounting group, and he sounds like all the accountants that I worked with, all the finance people. All the money has to add up, and you can find savings, like he estimated about 25%. I totally get that. There's always something there. And when you're looking at 350 billion, 370 billion, yes, there's some savings there. But to Jeffrey's point, you just report it. It then has to make its way to somebody that actually do something about it. And the controller doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And That's not going to change anytime soon. But I think he's counting on, he makes it public, like he says on his website, then the watchdog group, the civilian activists and so forth, they can then make it loud, right? Get it to the media and say, look at this. And maybe that would affect change. That's sort of a hope and a wish. But his position is very different than Malia Cohen's, where she is, it's a tough hiring decision because she is looking at, we need to do better with people, better with these programs that we fund and making sure the money gets to where it needs to get. And he's looking at the processes in the system. We can fix that. So, it's two sides of the coin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good people, whether you vote for Herb Morgan or not, the conversation that we just had is the conversation. It's the conversation California taxpayers have needed for a while. And we need to continue to dig into some of these issues. Here's what I need you to do right now, though. Subscribe to the channel right now, not later, not after the next video, right now. Drop a comment below because I'm going to be sharing these with him and others that really need to get engaged in this type of politics, because I think the financial piece is always missing from the conversation.
Yes.
So tell me what questions were important, what questions we didn't get. I'm happy to send them over to him and his people. Tell me what you want us to talk about next time, because when it comes to politics, we're always ready to dig in and hopefully make it relatable to some of you. Share this episode with 3 people in your life who live in California and pay taxes. And if you want more of this, subscribe. Go to Control the Narrative on Substack. The link is in the bio, in the description. Their information, these 2 gentlemen who have great things going on, their contact information is always included in the captions. I'm Tonya McKenzie, controller of the narrative, and make sure you control your narrative before the streets do, because they always get it wrong. And until next time, bye.